Hello students. Today we're going to talk about ratios, proportions, and cross products. In your book, it's Chapter 2, Section 4. So before we start, we're going to talk about the purpose and a few important definitions. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to find unit rates, write ratios, and solve problems using cross products. Now, to look at a few definitions, let's start off with ratio. Now, a ratio is when two numbers are written to compare their values. Ratios can be written in the following ways. It can be written as A to B with a colon, A to B with the word to literally in between, or A to B, which in this case might look a little weird, but it is a fraction, or A divided by B is another way you might read it. Now notice in all three ways that we showed you, they were read all the same way when we're talking about ratios, but they just look differently. So these are the three ways that you're more than likely to see them. Now, we're going to talk about a unit ratio, which sounds just like ratio with the word unit in front. And unit refers to 1. So a unit ratio is going to be a ratio whose denominator is 1. For example, we have 45 miles per hour, which can also be written as 45 miles per 1 hour. See how we can write it as a fraction as well? And this is our unit ratio because the fraction, or because the denominator is a 1. Now a rate is a ratio of values with different units of measure. So just like in the example above where we use miles per hour, that is also considered a rate because we use miles, which measures distance, and hours, which measures time. The last thing we're going to look at today is the property of cross products. So in the conditional statement, it says if A divided by B equals C divided by D, then A times D equals B times C, which might sound a little confusing. So let's look at the example below and hopefully we can make some sense of it. Now, cross products are exactly how they sound. We're crossing these numbers and then we're taking the products of them. So in this instance, we have 2 times 12, or we cross 2 and 12, and 8 and 3. Now, the way that I usually remember what a cross product is or when to take them is when I have a fraction of two numbers. So notice how we have two fractions here with an equal sign in between, and that's how we're able to determine that we are going to take the cross product. So putting our cross back up there, we have 2 times 12, which is written right here. Notice we never really did anything with the equal sign, so we're just going to bring it along. And then we have 3 times 8. So let's put these definitions to work. We have example 1, which says write each ratio as a fraction, then find the unit rate. And example 2 says solve each problem, or solve each proportion listed below. So this would be a great time for you to pause this screencast and try to work these problems out on your own. Hopefully you've paused this screencast and now we're going to work out the examples. So first of all, we're going to write this ratio as a fraction. So we have 524 cars per 4 weeks. So now that we have this as a ratio, or in this case a rate, we're also going to write it as a unit rate, which again has a denominator of 1. So what we're going to actually do is we are going to divide by 4 to the denominator, but remember what we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. So we're going to divide by 4 there as well. So when we simplify this, we are actually going to have 131 cars per 1 week. Notice how the denominator is a 1, and that's why it would be called a unit rate. For the second problem, notice again that we have two fractions with an equal sign in between. So now we're going to take a cross product where we're going to multiply 2 times 20. Again, we did not touch the equal sign, so we're going to bring it along. And 8 times n. So in order for us to solve for the variable, we're going to do some quick simplifying. So 2 times 20 is 40, and 8 times n is 8n. Now notice we're trying to get that n by itself, or we're trying to isolate it. So we are going to, because it says 8 times n, we're going to use inverse operations and divide by 8 to both sides. This is going to give us n equals 5, and then we're done. Now it's your turn. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to try one more problem. That's a word problem. So we have 2 students who are preparing for a marathon. Hector ran 8 miles in 85 minutes. Mario ran 6 miles in 55 minutes. The question is, who has the faster average speed? So, let's first organize our data, our information. So we're going to start with 2 columns, and Hector's going to be one, and Mario's going to be the other. So, can you remember how we write the 8 miles in 85 minutes as a rate? That would be 8 miles in 85 8 miles in 85 minutes. And Mario is 6 miles in 55 minutes. Now comparing their average speed is a little bit difficult because the times are different and the miles are different. So what we're going to do is actually convert this into 2 unit rates, which is to have a denominator of 1. So in order for us to make Hector have a denominator of 1, we're going to divide by 85. But remember, whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So we're going to divide by 85 to both the numerator and denominator. This gives us 9/10 of a mile per 1 minute. Mario, we're going to have to divide by 55 to the denominator to make that a 1. And again, whatever we do to the bottom, we also have to do to the top. So when we divide this, we're going to have 1/10 of a mile per 1 minute. Now because Mario's speed is 1/10 of a mile per minute, that means he's actually a little bit faster than Hector's speed. Now it's your turn to try. So we're going to actually have you work on problem 1 and problem 2, which are very similar to the ones that we just practiced. And when you finish these problems, I'd like for you to post your answers to Edmodo. So the first person to post will start the thread, and every person who posts their answer after that will actually just add on to the thread that was originally started.